one set of data. Tell us, Randy, about what you found.
Well, the article I pulled out is a supply and demand study done, and it's kind of gone in phases, but at this point it's an every 3-year study. The descriptive statistics were used a lot of different things, I would say. We used nominal based on gender and ethnicity and demographic type variables that we were looking at for agriculture teachers. And so when we're looking at those people, we could assign nominal variables to the people that were into the study. Then
Did we give you this last week, I think, didn't we?
Yes.
Mhm. And talked about it, and that was the percentages that we're teaching and not teaching and all that kind of stuff. And decided maybe it wasn't necessarily it was really pretty, but may not have explained or given us the kind of information that we wanted to have. That the picture wasn't expressive of what we couldn't see, what we thought we saw, or we weren't correct with what we thought we saw. Any other kinds of information? Some lots of nominal kinds of data. We could tell males and females.
I have a question. I had a few pieces of research sent to me for one of the eye tracking bits that's going on. And one of the common questions that they ask in order to determine baseline information about participants is smoking behaviors. Why? And is that still prevalent? Is that something that you've seen? Because I'm just looking at all of the pieces of nominal, but how does that influence statistics? Why would that matter? Why would that be taken into account? It's gender, age, education level, and smoking.
Okay, gender, age, education level, we can understand all that, right? Why might they ask smoking behavior? Well, was it yes or no, or how many packs you smoke a day?
They have 4 different qualifiers. They have non-smoking, party smoking, some cigarettes, and 1 pack per day.
I don't see there's a correlation between smoking. What was your study of it?
Eye tracking.
Yeah.
Okay, so somewhere in this is a good point, is that the data, when we get past just what we want to know to be able to see in our mind's eye who the participants are, the other kinds of data that we collect ought to be something that we think, for whatever reason we think, we'll talk about that we think may be related to, I think that's what you said, isn't it? That it was correlated with, directly correlated with,
Yes.
that it's related to the major variable under study, which was eye movement.
Well, they contain stimulants that might sharpen your reflexes.
I was going to say, I don't know anything about eye movement kinds of data and stuff, but I know that smoking has deleterious effects on a whole bunch of things, and so maybe it does affect our eye tracking behavior. That's pretty. Why might you think that? Why would you collect it? Well, because you thought it was related. Why might you think that it's related?
That you have to take into account.
Now, no, but why would you think that you'd have to take that one into account? Because it's related. Why would you think that it's related?
Yeah.
Because what he said.
What?
Nicotine's a stimulant, so it'll sharpen your reflexes, just like.
Something that.
Okay, you have some kind of additional data, additional information that would suggest to you that there is some relationship to something that's related to something else. You know, see, if you think that smoking cigarettes sharpens your reflexes, and your reflexes are part of what is eye movement, then by logic, you would say, maybe nicotine affects eye movement. And so you want to take that into account. Don't collect data on things that are just random. How do you, so one way is that it's related to something else that's related. Where do you find that kind of stuff? How would you come up with
Your
that?
lit review, right?
Huh?
Your lit review?
In the literature review. Your literature review is going to suggest that kind of stuff. So, you know, if there are things that are related to your thing, not just, you say, well, I don't have any indication that gender is related to eye movement. Why would you want to collect gender on your participants?
Casual relationships like casuality and validity. So if there's a possibility that some other factor could be influencing that in order for your study to be.
But if you really didn't think that there was any relationship between gender and eye tracking, why might you want to collect gender?
Just in case. It's easy to collect it too.
It's easy to collect, and what else?
Standard practice,
And why is it standard practice?
because
Minimum are different.
Yeah, that's what we just, when we see people, we see their age, we see their gender, we see it. In other words, we're social scientists. We want to know who our people are. Why would we collect information on ethnicity if we don't think there's any relationship between ethnicity and eye tracking? It's just to let the social scientists know who we're studying. Were you studying all teenagers, or were you studying all 70-year-olds? Even if you don't think that there's any relationship between that, just to let your readers see, here's who my participants were in my research. You'll find some who say, don't collect data on anything that you're not going to analyze in its relationship to your major variables. And I say that's bunk. I want to know, I want to be able to see in my mind's eye who those people are. Okay? So if it's gender, how are you going to report it? It's nominal data. How are you going to report it?
M or F, 1 or 2, 0.
M or F, or male or female, spell it out. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? So I've got male and female. That's at the top of some list. What's below the male and female?
Age.
Frequency or percentage?
Oh.
Frequency and percentage. That's how we display nominal data. It with frequency and percentage. How else might we do it pictorially? It could be a pie chart. Why use a pie chart?
They're easy to get.
What can you see in that pie chart?
You can look at it as a you can see it in
ratio.
a general sense very quickly.
It's parts of the whole. They're males and females, and if the M's, if here's the deal, and these are all M's, what do you know immediately? It's more males, weren't there? You don't have to have the frequency and the percentages. So sometimes a pie chart tells you that. Could you do it as a frequency polygon or a bar chart? What do you see? If the F bar is higher than the M bar, what do you know? More females than males. You don't have to see the N to see that. If they're pretty close, you can see that. Be it a pie chart, that's the whole. The problem with the male female with the bar chart is it isn't the whole. That's the neat thing about a pie chart, is it's the whole. So nominal variables, Now, what kind of nominal variable may you not want to report via a pie chart? What's the problem with this one? If it were a flat pie chart, what would still be the problem with
You
it?
have fine distinctions between your segments.
Yeah,
numerical
you know, it does
differences.
pretty good for this big part. But when it's got 5 other little parts, it doesn't really, they've got to show me the numbers here to tell me, so I can see the differences anyway. So why don't you just tell me the numbers rather than try to produce it like that? Oh, I can see real quickly that, you know, that's more than half of them there, but all the rest of them. So if you've got 6 or 8 categories, I don't know that you want to do a pie chart. A bar graph? Yeah, that may work, that may help me. Or simply a table where you give me the frequency and give me the percentages, give me the total, look in, I don't think no, I didn't bring it. Look in APA under tables, kind of 125 or 126 through page 150 to see about tables and about displaying information, descriptive information like that.
I have one other question about that data. Granted, it's a Dutch study, so it may have more social pertinence, the questioning about smoking, but I also wasn't sure if that's ordinal or interval, because there is a 0, but at the same time, the intervals are not regular.
So you tell me which you don't say we're going to take a vote. Tell me, is it ordinal?
I think it's ordinal,
Is it nominal?
yes.
It is nominal. It's 4 different categories,
Yes.
4 different names. Non-smoker, party smoker, occasionally, or whatever the next one
Some
is.
cigarettes per day.
Some cigarettes
one
per day, and then pack or more.
It's very Dutch, yeah.
So it is certainly nominal. It's ordinal because, or at least we assume that it's ordinal. Could one who checks party smoker smoke more than one who smokes, what's the third one?
Some cigarettes per day, yes.
Yes, some
They
cigarettes
could
per
party
day.
all the time.
Why is that? If they party all the time and smoke all the time while they're partying, it may not be. But I think
This is
the
why-
assumption was or is that the party smoker is kind of I guess, a sometimes smoker. Kind of
Social
magic by
smoker.
someone.
Yeah, how do you indicate this? It's
Hmm?
just, what is the value of it? Is this,
So we'll know how much it's. I don't know what they want to know that for.
but is it?
And
a
so
value
is it
or
ordinal?
Yes.
Yes, it's ordinal. Now, your question was,
Sorry, is it interval or ratio?
your question is it interval? So tell us, let's go to ratio. Let's try to eliminate or
It is
confirm.
ratio, but not interval.
Okay, let's think if it's ratio.
It has an absolute 0.
It has an absolutely 0. What else does it have to have? What else does having the absolute 0, let's take height or length.
It's gotta have measurable separations between each of them, which that doesn't have.
What is true ratio, what is true about 3 feet versus 6 feet or 6 feet to 3
One
feet?
is
It's gotta
half.
be double.
It's double.
Right.
So tell me, is one of those double the other one?
No, so it's not interval.
So it's not ratio.
Wait, see, now I'm confused because I thought interval had even amounts in between.
Okay, so
So
you're
is it
getting ahead of us.
neither?
We're just trying to figure, it's not ratio, now we're gonna look and see if it's
It's
interval.
not interval.
It's not
either.
interval either.
So it's only ordinal
So it's, and nominal,
and nominal.
and nominal. Because all ordinal data is also nominal.
Right.
Okay? I mean, that is an important distinction. That a 0 point, something that can have a 0 point and still not be interval or ratio data. Because ratio data, there has to be ratio. We have to have something that's twice as much as, or half as much as. That's why 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 16 degrees Fahrenheit is not twice as warm. 32 is not twice as warm as 16. It's not anywhere near twice as warm. Okay? But even because there is not a true zero, but if we had a true zero, I never have smoked. If we don't have equal intervals. So we rule out the ratio because it's not interval either. And if it's not interval, it can't be ratio. Okay? The intervals, the distance, the amount of cigarettes that one smokes between none and party smoker
Has to be equal.
is not defined any more than the distance between party smoker and a few cigarettes a day, or what is it? What?
Some.
Some,
That's how it was translated.
some, which is,
Yeah.
you know. So at best, it's ordinal data. Okay? Anyone else have anything that's good or bad?
Yeah, I don't know, like, everything I found has a bunch of weird, like, abbreviations, like SS, but nothing that I read explained to me what they were.
Yeah,
Like,
so.
so
you
am
know,
I just supposed to know that? And
Well,
when will I learn that?
yeah.
I mean, I've done research before, I've read certain pieces, but
What's the journal that's came out of?
Journal of Education and Learning, it's about conflict management models in school, and it's a mixed method study, so I like mixed method studies, so, yeah.
And
Their
that is, it
their
was,
quantitative was
and
weird.
it was big SS. I haven't read it. Is it big S's
No,
or two
little.
little? Not big S, little S.
Mhm.
Okay, so what would big S mean? Any of you know what that would be? Sums of squares.
What?
Whatever that means. Sums of squares, whatever that is. Okay.
Well, what is that?
Why do you take squares?
Well, that gets us right
Is it big
into
S?
that gets us right into today's
Little.
subject just a little bit. Sums
Oh
of
gosh,
squares.
so we're gonna learn of all these things randomly. X with a line over it? What's
Yeah.
that?
Mhm. We
Bar
will.
X?
Yeah,
Mhm. We
Some.
will.
Not
We
some.
will.
That's not some.
Okay.
okay.
So the whole purpose for this, is to just get you into the literature and to see just what you found is sometimes we've got stuff that we don't know. They're talking a language that we don't understand.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's very true.
So that's what we're all about, is understanding that language. You can't tell the players without a program. You can't sing the song without the words. Even with the words, you can't sing the song without the melody. So that's what we want to try to do, is get the players with the program, the words to the song, and the song with the melody. And it'll be pretty sequential. We'll start out, we won't know those kinds of things, but we'll get to them. So I'm still here, and I will take up those things from you. I don't think you'll need them to study for our test next week. So I'm back here on this thing. And I'm gonna flip through here with you, and I want to see where you are in terms of notes or questions, or, you know, do you go back when we're done with the class and say, God, the guy was just random, you know, what did he say about this? We didn't go through this sequentially. I am that, I'll admit, very random. We didn't go through that slide by slide necessarily. But afterwards, did we say anything about that? Do you have questions? Do we know about 4 levels of measurement?
Yes.
Do we understand those 4 levels of measurement? I'm telling you, if you don't get that foundation, you're going to screw up on down the road. Because you'll step into a hole and break your ankle.
Construction frequency distributions on page 4.
Constructing frequency distribution. Look at APA.
Okay.
Look at the APA manual. Frequency distribution, how you gonna do that?
Don't tell me what those variables mean? AP
No,
manual?
no,
Oh.
no. But they will show you a bar graph, they'll show you a pie
Oh, so
chart,
it's just the type, okay.
they'll show you a frequency polygon, those kinds of things. I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not a very visual person when it comes to numbers. Numbers are okay with me. A lot of folks are big time into, depicting it visually, and some of us see it in numbers fine. You don't have to have it depicted visually. So frequency distributions in a table, it's the variable. Every column has to have a heading in a table. It's the name of the variable, okay? Gender. It is the values, male and female. It's in, or frequency, and the numbers of males and number of females. It's percentage of males, percentage of females. If you want to have a total, it's 100%, okay? And it's 926. And if it's 926, then what should the numbers? One of the numbers is 500, what's the females? That's males, 426 females, okay? So, look, check that and make sure that those things work. Check that your percentages add up to 100%. And you can see how sometimes we'll have a total at the bottom and sometimes they won't put a total. I kind of like a total, so I don't have to do it myself. Why is a frequency distribution best for nominal or ordinal data? Why is it typically not? And we probably won't talk much about ratio data. We'll just assume that interval data is good enough. Why is it that something like weight might not be portrayed in a frequency distribution?
Like a lot of different.
Too many variables.
It's because we have too many different categories. Weight is a continuous variable. Oh, wait a second, I think that was on our list somewhere or another. Weight is a continuous variable. So what are continuous variables? How are they measured?
Well, you can do pounds, and then ounces, and then grams, and then milligrams, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. It's continuing
It
between.
continues. What level of measurement are continuous variables then?
Height, weight,
Of the four though. The
interval.
four kinds of levels of measurement. Interval, or no, the.
Oh, what are they?
Yeah, what are
Ratio.
continuous variables?
Their interval may be ratio.
Ratio.
Interval and ratio, okay?
Because
Interval and
they're
ratio, continuous data,
Okay.
or interval or ratio.
But you can have
Right.
zero
What's the opposite of continuous variables?
weight. Not finite, discrete.
Discrete variables, okay? So if continuous variables are intervally scaled or nominal or ratio scaled, what are discrete variables?
Nominal and ordinal.
Nominal and ordinal, okay? What does discrete mean? Non-continuous. Like, we don't have a category, we don't have something between, even though we say, well, surely there is, between party smoker and a few cigarettes a day. There's really one in between that more than party smokers, but less than a few cigarettes a day. Just seldom smoking, but more than once, I don't know, whatever.
Couldn't you decide to, well, let's say you're doing weight of like bears or something. Couldn't you route it to the nearest pound and make it discrete data, but it would still be a ratio?
It looks like it does. It is discrete. A lot of times we will always report it as discrete variables, but when we take an average, how would we take that average?
you would use the raw data, not adjust it to make it discrete.
Okay, but adjust the raw data to make it discrete, and then figure the average.
It won't be discrete most likely.
Huh?
It'll most likely be between other between.
Yeah, it'll be 238.6 pounds, or 238.69 pounds, or 238.14 pounds. You couldn't round it off to 238 or 239. What's the common, what might, wonder what APA would say about it. That's a good one for you to look, to find out. When we have these discrete kinds of variables, they look discrete, but they're really continuous variables. Weight being one of those, okay? Age being one of those, okay? It looks discrete, but it's really a continuous variable. Because it's interval, the amount of time between 3 years old and 6 years old is exactly the same amount of time as the interval between 57 years old and 60 years old. It's hard to tell a 3-year-old because it's also a ratio variable, you see. In a ratio, 3 years to 6 years. How much more is 6 years and 3 years? Just 3 years? Yes, that's the interval. What else is it? Between 3 and 6, or 6 to 3. It's twice as many years. Okay? You've lived twice as many years. You haven't figured this out, but you soon will. That the older you get, the faster the years go by. And you know why that is? It's because it's less of a percentage of the amount of time you've been alive. When you were 10 to 11, that year was a tenth of your life. You were adding another tenth of your life. But when you went from 20 to 21, you were just adding a 1/20th, 5% to your, when you go from. Ooh. So it just speeds up. It really does. Because of that. Continuous, discrete. Discrete is what kind? Nominal and ordinal data. Okay, let's look. Describe your data verbally or visually. Oh, there's one that sometimes tricks us. What does verbal mean?
It's written out.
Written out? Only written out?
Spoken.
Or spoken? Verbal is with words, either written or spoken. Oral, a lot of times, if you tell someone verbal, you know what they think that you know what they think they're telling you? It's kind of like average. You got to be precise now. Oral and written is precise. Verbal is a generic term. Because verbal means what? Written or oral. I think that most people confuse verbal for what other word? Which of the other two words? Oral. Well, I'll tell you verbally how to get there. Or you can give it to me writing or orally. Well, you dummy, I just said I was going to do it verbally. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to speak to you. That isn't what verbally means. Verbally can be written or it can be oral. Just, again, one of those kinds of things. Central tendency, you got those down? You got central tendency down? What does central tendency mean to the average person? Nothing. What word would they use to talk about central tendency? Age? They'd talk about average. And we'd say, yes, you're right. Central tendency is average. How many kinds of average are there?
3.
To the people out there in the uninformed. There isn't 3. There's 1, isn't there? That's all they think about. Well, I wanted the average. I know how to get the average. How do you get the average? How does the person on the street get an average? Add them up and divide by the number. We'd say that's one kind of average. Because what kind of average is that?
Arithmetic.
That's the arithmetic average, or the mean. So we don't have to have a four-syllable word or something. That's the mean. But there are other kinds of averages. There are other kinds of central tendency. Why don't we just call them averages? Because then that would be confusing to the person on the street. We say central tendency. That's confusing to them too, but at least they know that they don't know what that means. They think they know what average means. Oh, really? Okay. So what's the average student at Texas A&M, gender-wise? Well, what do you mean? What's the average student? Well, you can't do an average. Well, I hear people talking about average students all the time. You know, what do you mean? Well, I mean a particular kind of central tendency, calling a mode. I don't know that we ever figured out what that was. I shouldn't have used that example, should I? Did you look it up? Yeah. What's the percentage?
It was like 52 close, 51 to 49, it's really close.
Yeah. Sorry, I had that one right.
You did, you had it right.
Yeah. Not for long, understand. Probably not for long. And then the other one, because we said we wanted to get, what's the average income of people in this room? What's the best way to get the average? What do we mean by average?
Do you mean the mean?
Yeah, I
Do
don't
you
mean
mean
to
the
mean
mean?
necessarily.
Do you mean the
Average,
median?
average can mean a lot of different things, mode, median.
Yeah, but if I want an average, the average student here at Texas A&M, I might use all three of those. What else would we say just off the street? What do you mean by average?
You mean male, female, age?
Yeah, I just want to know the average. What else, huh? The typical student. I think typical would be a word that we might use to mean average. And in fact, if we said typical, they probably wouldn't think mean in their head. So tell me about a typical student at Texas A&M. Then they'd say, well, it's more apt to be male than female, but just barely, you know. It's about equal males and females. You know, that would be the average. But the mode, it's more likely they're really mixing a little bit. The typical student, when they say, well, it's pretty much equal males and females, they're mixing average, mode, and distribution, and saying it's about half and half. Okay? So we're all jumping ahead to distribution, but typical would be male. What else? Tell me what level. Oh, this will get you. Be careful on this one. Typical student at Texas A&M is Male?
Graduate,
what?
undergraduate.
Undergraduate, okay. Be more precise.
Like their classification?
Undergraduate is
Freshman.
classification.
Freshman.
I'd say like a sophomore, junior.
Look it up. Think about it. What is it?
Interquartile.
Junior, because that accounts for transfer students from Blinn too, doesn't it?
Yeah. I bet you that it's a senior. Now, why would it be a senior?
Because you have 2 or 3 or 4 years of seniors.
Yeah, or you can't take a victory lap, you know, as a junior. You're a junior until you get to have 90 credits. But you're a senior from the time you get 90 credits till you graduate. That may be 140 credits, maybe 160, maybe 180.
I hope not.
Yeah, you better hope
I
not.
want to see who can afford that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it may, you know, it may not be the freshman. Think about what it is. We've got about 50,000 undergraduates here.
It was 43 grand or something.
So do we really have more than You know, if it's 50,000, do we have more than 12,500 freshmen? Now, remember, freshmen are not just those who came in last year. It can be those that didn't complete 30 credits during the year. But a lot of students come here, they're first year students, but they're already sophomores. In fact, I think in the future, or pretty soon, we'll find out we have about as many sophomores that are their first year here as we have freshmen that are in their second year here.
Well,
Maybe even have more
And
than that.
sometimes that's not right. Sometimes it's a little skewed. So,
Are we looking at this based on self-reporting or based on
Yeah, I
university
was gonna
statistics?
say.
Because a lot of people will say a very different class than
Oh,
we did,
yeah.
especially A&M.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I still say I'm a senior.
Hmm?
I still say I'm a senior,
Yeah.
than I'm a first year grad student.
However they want to report it. Seniors are going to report themselves as seniors when they're seniors. They may say a fifth-year senior, they may say a sixth-year senior, but they're going to say seniors. The freshmen will be some of those that just started here, and it's some of those that are second year and still have freshman hours. But some of those who just started here will report themselves as sophomores, even though they just started, but they transferred in credits or had, I still say that it's seniors that are the mode for undergraduate classification. And I don't know, we may have more graduate students. Graduate students may actually be the more typical student. Undergraduate, for sure. And that's probably a pretty clear kind of thing. It's way under more undergraduates than there are graduate students. And then it's would tell the distribution by freshman, sophomore, junior, senior graduate students.
Well, that's the same way you could say you are most likely to be Chinese, but you're more likely to be not Chinese.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's a trick, isn't it?